Hi and welcome back, everybody. For those of you, if it is your birthday today, happy birthday to you. I hope you have had or will have a good day today. So today we're going to read kind of a continuation of the story Bartholomew Cubbins. If you've read or watched the video previously before this, I think it's a few books down in the video playlist, there is a story about Bartholomew Cubbins. He went to the town to sell some of his cranberries, but he had on a red hat. And when the king walked by or rode by in his chariot, in his carriage, he wanted Bartholomew to take off his hat. Every time Bartholomew took off his hat, still had another red hat on. And every time he kept taking it off, it was called 500 hats of Bartholomew. And it kept taking it off, and the king's court, they all kept counting. The king was getting upset, and then in the end, the king ended up taking all the hats, or buying all the hats from Bartholomew Cubbins. So this is another book about Bartholomew and the king, and this is called Bartholomew and the Oobleck. This is also by Dr. Seuss. And this one is a 3.2, meaning third grade, second month, and the points are 0.5. So if your school is with Renaissance Learning and they do allow you to take tests, then make sure you read this book 3 times, have somebody ask you questions, and make sure you get them all right, because you want to get as many points as you want. The more you take tests with Renaissance Learning, the more you read, and the more you have somebody asking you questions about books. The smarter you get, the faster you get to read. You start reading faster. You start to comprehend more. If you don't do that on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis, you won't improve your reading. So you want to make sure you're reading almost every day. So let's read about Bartholomew Oobleck and the Oobleck. Now you're wondering, what is an Oobleck? We're going to find out what an Oobleck is in this story. They still talk about it in the kingdom of Did as the year of the king got angry with the sky. And they still talk about the page boy Bartholomew Cubbins. If it hadn't been for Bartholomew Cubbins, the king and that sky would have wrecked that little kingdom. Bartholomew had seen the king get angry many, many times before. But that year, when His Majesty started growling at the sky, Bartholomew Cubbins just didn't know what to make of it. Yet all that year, the old king did it. All year long, he stared up into the air above his kingdom, muttering and sputtering through his royal whiskers. The things that come down from the sky. All spring the rain came down, he growled at that. All summer, when the sunshine came down, he growled at that. And autumn, when the fog came down, he growled at that. And that winter, when the snow came down, he started shouting, This snow, this fog, this sunshine, this rain, bah! These 4 things that come down from the sky. But King Derwin, Bartholomew tried to calm him, you've always had these same four things come down. That's just the trouble, bellowed the king. Every year the same four things. I'm mighty tired of those things. I want something new to come down. Something new to come down? Bartholomew gasped. That's impossible, Your Majesty. You just can't have it. Boy, don't you dare tell me what I can and cannot have. Remember, Bartholomew, I am king. I know, sire, said Bartholomew. You rule all the land and you rule all the people, but even kings can't have the sky. You can't rule the sky. Nobody could rule the sky. That's just impossible. Can't? Eh? His Majesty flew into a terrible rage. Well, maybe other kings can't do it, but maybe I'm one king who can. You mark my words, Bartholomew Cubbins. I will have something new come down. But how to get something new to come down? That was rather hard to think up, and for many days the old king stomped around, trying to figure out some way to do it. Then finally, one night, when all the lords and ladies of the palace were fast asleep, just as the king was buttoning up his royal nightshirt, he suddenly stopped still. A strange wild light began to shine in his gray-green eyes. Why, of course! He began laughing. They can do it for me. Bartholomew Cubbins, blow my secret whistle, quick! Call the royal magicians. Your magicians, Your Majesty? Bartholomew shivered. Oh, no, Your Majesty, don't call them. You hold your tongue, Bartholomew Cubbins. You do as I command. Blow my secret whistle. Yes, sire. Bartholomew blowed. But, Your Majesty, I still think that you may be very sorry. He took the king's secret whistle from its secret hook. He blew a long, low blast down the king's back's secret stairway. At that moment, and a moment later, he heard them coming. Up from their musty hole beneath the dungeon, up the empty midnight tunnel to the royal bedchamber tower, came the magicians on their padded, shuffling feet. Up and right into the room they came, chanting, Shuffle, duffle, muzzle, muff, fista, wista, mista cuff. We are men of groans and howls, mystic men who eat boiled owls. Tell us what you wish, O king. Our magic can do anything. I wish, spoke the king, to have you make something fall from the sky that no other kingdom has ever had before. What can you do? What will you make? For a moment they stood thinking, and blinking and creaking eyes. Then they spoke a word, one word. Oobleck. Oobleck, answered the king. What will it look like? Won't look like rain, won't look like snow, won't look like fog. That's all we know. We just can't tell you any more. We've never made Oobleck before. They bowed. They started towards the door. We go now to our secret cave on Mystic Mountain Nicotave. There, all night long, we'll work for you, and we'll have Oobleck when we're through. They'll do something crazy, whispered Bartholomew. Call them back, Your Majesty. Stop them. Stop them? Not for a ton of diamonds, chuckled the king. Why, I'll be the mightiest man that ever lived. Just think of it. Tomorrow I'm going to have Oobleck. It took Bartholomew a long time to get the excited king to sleep that night, but there was no sleep for Bartholomew, the page boy. So now, Bartholomew, now he's moved up. Now he's got a job and he's working for the king. So he's with the king all the time. Even when he sleeps, he has to be there ready for him. All night long he stood in the king's window, staring out at the mystic mountain Nicotave. Somewhere up there, Bartholomew knew the musicians were working their terrible magic. All night the magicians did. All night they walked circles round their magic fire, making magic mumbling with their clucking tongues. Oh, snow and rain aren't enough. Oh, we must make some brand new stuff. So feed the fire with wet mouse hair. Burn an onion, burn a chair. Burn a whisker from your chin, and burn a long sour lizard skin. Burn yellow twigs and burn red rust, and burn a stocking full of dust. Make magic smoke green, thick and hot. It sure smells dreadful, does it not? That means the smoke is now just right. So quick, before the day gets light. Go, magic smoke, go high, go high, go rise into the kingdom sky. Go make the Oobleck tumble down on every street and every town. Go make the wondrous Oobleck fall. Oh, bring down Oobleck on us all. Oh no, I wonder what the Oobleck is going to be. And Bartholomew kind of has a hunch or feeling that something's going to go wrong. Dawn was just breaking, and Bartholomew was still standing, trembling, watching the bedchamber window. By now, as the sun rose, Bartholomew smiled. Those silly magicians hadn't done a thing. Then suddenly Bartholomew Cubbins stopped smiling. Was he seeing things? No, there was something strange up there in the sky. At first, it seemed like a little greenish cloud way up there. Just a wisp of greenish steam, but now it was coming lower, closer, down towards the fields and farms and houses of the sleeping little kingdom. It was swirling round the topmost turrets of the palace. Tiny little greenish specks are shimmering in the air right over his head. Queer little greenish blobs just about the size of grape seeds, and that's like really small. He stretched out his hand. He started to hatch one. He started to catch one. Then he pulled his hand back. There was something frightening about those blobs. Bartholomew slammed the door shut. "Wake up, your majesty," he shouted. "Your Oobleck, it's falling." "Ooh!" The king sprang out of his royal bed sheets. "Oh, my royal whiskers, it is!" he cried. "Oh, that beautiful Oobleck, and it's mine, all mine." "I don't like the look of those blobs, sire," said Bartholomew. "They're coming down now as big as greenish peanuts. So now from the great seed size, now it's peanut size." "The bigger the better," laughed the king. "Oh, what a day! I'm going to make it a holiday. I want every man, woman, and child in my kingdom to go out and dance on my glorious Oobleck." "Out in that stuff?" asked Bartholomew. "Do you really think it's safe, sire?" "Stop asking foolish questions," snapped the king. "Boy, You run to my royal bell tower, wake up my royal bell ringer. Tell him to ring the great holiday bell. For a moment, Bartholomew Cubbins didn't move. Run! Barked the king. Bartholomew ran. Across the sleeping palace, Bartholomew ran. Then up the ladder of the high bell tower, he climbed to the bell ringer's little cubby hole in the belfry. Ring your bell, he called. Your Majesty the King proclaimed today's a holiday. The old man crawled out of his cot. He grabbed the bell rope. What's the holiday for, Bartholomew? You'll find out soon enough. The bell ringer yanked the rope. Nothing. Can't hear anything. They're supposed to be ringing the bell. You can't hear anything. He yanked it harder. Still nothing happened. Huh? What's wrong with my bell? He murmured. I'd better take a look outside. He poked his head out through the little trap door. Merciful gracious, he gulped. What is that? All over my bell like greenish molasses. Not only your bell, Bartholomew cried. Look at the poor robin down there in the tree. She's stuck in her nest. She can't move a wing. That Oobleck's gooey. It's gummy. It's like glue. Ooh, the bell ringer wrung his hands. If that green stuff sticks up robins, it'd stick up people too. Someone's got to warn the people, cried Bartholomew. Go to wake them and warn them to stay inside their houses. I'll tell the royal trumpeter, he shouted. He turned and he slid like lightning down the bell tower ladder. To the trumpet's tower raced Bartholomew Cubbins, and on up the steps, 4 stairs at a time. As he ran, he could hear the plop, plop of the oobleck on the window panes. It was pelting against the palace walls as big as greenish cupcakes now. So we started from little grape seeds to peanuts, now to cupcakes are really huge. He yanked the covers off the snoring trumpeter. He shoved his cold trumpet right in his sleepy hands. Get up! Warn the people! Blow the alarm! Alarm? Yarned the trumpeter. Then his eyes saw the oobleck. Those green things, Bartholomew, where'd they come from? The king, panted Bartholomew. His royal magicians made them. The royal trumpeter leaped from his bed. That king of ours should be ashamed. He jabbed his trumpet out of the window. I'll blow, he shouted, the loudest alarm that ever been heard in the kingdom of Did. But all the royal trumpeter blew was a glug. My horn! One of those green things flew inside it. He tried to blow it out. He couldn't blow it out. He tried to shake it out. He couldn't shake it out. I'll get it somehow, he yelled. I'll pull it out. No, shouted Bartholomew. Don't touch it. The trumpeter's hand was already in it. His fingers grabbed hold of the lump of oobleck. He could feel it squiggle around in his fists like a slippery potato dumpling made of rubber. He pulled with all his might. The oobleck began to stretch. Then, gloing, the oobleck snapped back inside the trumpet. It yanked his arm back with it right up the elbow. I can't wiggle my fingers, the trumpet wailed. Oh, Bartholomew, what'll I do? I don't know. I'll have to leave you stuck on to your horn. But if you can't warn the people of the kingdom, I've got to find someone who can. Out of the room and down the stairs raced Bartholomew Cubbins. down to the chamber of the captain of the guards. The captain was humming in front of the mirror, combing the ends of his handsome mustache. "Captain, do something!" shouted Bartholomew. "Do something? Why?" smiled the captain. "What's wrong?" "Captain, haven't you seen the dreadful Oobleck? It's coming down now as big as greenish baseballs from cupcakes. Now, even a little bit bigger baseballs. It's even bigger." "Oh, that stuff," laughed the captain. "What's so dreadful about that, lad? You know, I think it's rather pretty." "Captain," pleaded Bartholomew, "it's dangerous." "Nonsense," snorted the captain. "Lad, you are trying to frighten me? Captains, my boy, are afraid of nothing. That stuff's harmless. I'll show you. I'll eat some." Ew, he's going to eat some green stuff coming from the sky. "Eat some?" gasped Bartholomew. "Oh, no." But before Bartholomew could stop him, the captain was leaning out of his window, scooping up some oobleck on the end of his sword. "Don't, Captain, don't!" The captain did. By the time Bartholomew dragged him back inside the room, his mouth was glued shut with the oobleck. He tried to speak, but no words came out. All the noble captain of the guards could do was blow a lot of little, sticky, greenish bubbles. "Forgive me for leaving you, Captain," said Bartholomew, "but a captain full of bubbles is no help at all." Bartholomew stretched the poor man out and left him there on his chamber floor. Bartholomew went tearing through the zigzag palace hallways. "I'll get the king's horse. I'll ride to the country. I'll warn the people of the kingdom myself." He pushed the door that led out to the royal stables. That's a lot of oobleck falling everywhere. Bartholomew stopped. He could go no further. The awful oobleck was plumping down as big as the greenish footballs now. Wow, so now we're at footballs. Now it's about this big. The awful oobleck was plumping down as big as greenish footballs now. Too late to warn the people of the kingdom. There were farmers in the field getting stuck to hoes and plows. Goats were getting stuck to ducks. Geese were getting stuck to cows. Outside the palace, it was piling high, great greenish tons of oobleck, deeper and deeper on every roof in the land. There was nothing Bartholomew Cubbins could do out there. Shaking his head sadly, he stepped back inside. But inside, a moment later, it was just as bad as outside. I'm starting to think, where's not the captain, but where's the king at this point? I haven't heard anything about the king so far. Let's continue reading. Let's see if we find out anything about the king. With an angry roar, the oobleck was suddenly hitting the palace harder. It was battering and spattering against the walls as big as greenish buckets full of gooey asparagus soup. Like a sinking sailboat, the whole palace was springing leaks. The oobleck was ripping the windows right off their hinges. Hey, doesn't that look like the fish from Cat in the Hat? It was dripping through the ceilings. It was rolling down the chimneys. It was coming in everywhere, even through the keyholes. From every bedroom in the palace came the howls of lords and ladies. Frightened in their nightgowns, they came jumping to their doors. "Go back to your beds. Get under your blankets." Bartholomew Cubbins went crying through the halls, but nobody paid the slightest attention. Everyone in the palace started rushing madly about. The royal cook rushed down to the royal kitchen. Bartholomew Cubbins saw him trapped there, stuck to 3 stew pots. 1, 2, 3. A teacup. Let's see, where do we see a teacup? There's a teacup. And a cat. The royal laundress rushed outside to save her laundry. Bartholomew saw her, stuck tight to the clothesline between 2 woolen stockings and the king's best Sunday blouse. He saw the royal fiddlers. They were stuck in their royal fiddles. Everywhere Bartholomew ran, he saw someone stuck to something. They were stuck up by the dozens. Every last friend he had in the world was flopping and floundering, all hopelessly caught in the goo. Then suddenly, amidst the hubbub, Bartholomew gasped. The king! Where was the king? He had forgotten all about the king. This is where the king is. It was in the throne room that Bartholomew found him. There he sat, old King Derwin, proud and mighty ruler of the kingdom of Did, trembling, shaking helplessly as a baby. His royal crown was stuck to his royal head. The seat of his royal pants were stuck to his royal throne. Oobleck was dripping from his royal eyebrows. It was oozing until his royal ears. Fetch my magicians, Bartholomew, he commanded. Make them say some magic words. Make them stop the Oobleck falling. Bartholomew shrugged his shoulders. I can't fetch them, your majesty. Their cave on Mount Nekatav is buried deep in Oobleck. Then I must think of some magic words, crowed the king. Oh, what were those words my magicians were saying? Shuffle, duffle, muzzle, muff. That's all I can remember, and they don't do any good. Oobleck keeps falling harder. He wanted Oobleck. Now he's got it. Bartholomew Cubbins could hold his tongue no longer. And it's going to keep on falling, he shouted, until your whole great marble palace tumbles down. So don't waste your time saying foolish magic words. You ought to be saying some plain, simple words. Simple words? What do you mean, boy? I mean, said Bartholomew, this is all your fault. Now the least you can do is say the simple words, I'm sorry. No one ever talked to the king like that before. What? He bellowed. Me? Me say, I'm sorry? Kings never say, I'm sorry, and I'm the mightiest king of all in the world. Bartholomew looked at the king square in the eye. You might be king, my mighty king, he said, but you're still in Oobleck up to your chin, and so is everyone else in your land. And if you won't say you're sorry, you're not sort of a king at all. Bartholomew Cubbins turned his back. He started for the throne room door. But then Bartholomew heard a great deep sob. The king was crying. Come back, Bartholomew Cubbins. You're right. It's all my fault, and I'm sorry. Oh, Bartholomew, I'm awfully sorry. And the moment the king spoke those words, something happened. What do you think is going to happen once he said he's so very sorry? And he really meant it. What do you think is going to happen? Maybe there was something magic in those simple words. I'm sorry. Maybe there was something magic in those simple words. It's all my fault. Maybe there was, and maybe there wasn't. But they say that as soon as the old king spoke them, the sun began to shine, finding its way through the storm. And they say the falling oobleck blobs grew smaller and smaller and smaller. They say that all the oobleck was stuck on all people, and all the animals of the kingdom just simply melted away. And then they say Bartholomew took the old king by the sleeve and led him up the steps to the high bell tower. He put the bell rope into His Majesty's royal hands, and the king himself rang the holiday bell. Then the king proclaimed a brand new national holiday in honor of the 4 perfect things that come down from the sky. The king now knew that these 4 old-fashioned things, the rain, the sunshine, the frog, and the snow, were good enough for any king in all the world, especially for him, old King Derwin of Did. And so the king learned his lesson. Bartholomew kept trying to tell him, this doesn't sound like a good idea. But the king was so set in his ways, he didn't want to hear anything from anybody. Whatever he said went. So sometimes when people try to tell you things, this is what the story is trying to tell you. When people are trying to tell you that maybe it's not a good idea, you should probably think these through before you do something or say something. And this is what the book is trying to teach you. So Bartholomew, I think he's the smartest character in this whole book. What do you think? I think he is. I think the king should learn a lot from Bartholomew. All right. If you liked this video, please click like. Please follow my YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Check all the links below. You can message me through Facebook. The link is below. And also, I have items that relate to the books that I've read or haven't read, just items that I do make. And those are in the links below of the apps that I have my items that I do sell. So, I hope you guys liked this book. You all have a good evening and see you in the next video.